Okay, welcome everyone to this edition of the Lifestyle Lawyer Revolution podcast. I'm Laura Cowan, and we have today with us Brandon Ayers. Am I pronouncing your last name right?
That's right. Yep.
Okay, Brandon is one of our amazing 2-hour lifestyle lawyers in our community of over 550 lawyers. And how long have you been with us, Brandon?
Probably since 2022. Was probably then.
You were one of the very first then, because we
Yep.
launched in 2022. Okay, good.
Yep.
So just tell us a little bit about your practice. What state are you in? What kind of law do you do, etc.?
Yeah. So we're located in Illinois, also licensed in Texas, but we're an estate planning law firm. No surprise there. I describe the actual business we do sometimes as estate planning and the stuff that naturally comes out of that. So, we'll do real estate closings for clients, but it's not like we're out hustling trying to get realtors in or things like that. Um, One of the bigger areas we differentiate ourselves is on the proactive tax advising and tax planning and asset protection pieces. So a little more of the advanced planning is part of where my background is.
So that's good to know. You
Yeah.
you deal with families that have more than, is there an estate tax in Illinois?
There is an estate tax in Illinois. It's $4 million. And I do deal with families that have that kind of wealth, yes. But more often, it's the IRA, it's the inherited IRA, it's the business owner who just has questions that they never really feel, are answered by other professionals in their life that we try and fill the gap in sometimes on.
Yeah, and that's the interesting thing about estate planning is it doesn't take very long before you need to start roping in a financial advisor or a life insurance
Right.
agent or a CPA because all of these things interconnect.
Yep, that's true. And I always see it as like the best testimonial I can get is when a client calls in for things they know I don't do, but is asking for advice. I always see that as like the real gold star of, hey, these people trust me and like me. So yeah,
They do, yeah. And one of the things that we teach our lawyers in the 2HLL community is to start building those relationships with financial advisors, CPAs, not necessarily, I mean, partially to get referrals, but partially
yep,
just to have sort of an army of people that you can refer your clients out to if they need help.
that's right. Yep.
So the estate tax is only 4 million in Illinois. So for people
Yeah,
who are listening, what people may not realize is that that means anyone who lives in Illinois and passes away in Illinois, and correct me if I'm wrong, but if they have more than $4 million, including life insurance, they might have to write a check out of the estate for taxes. Is that right?
that's right. And Illinois, I don't know if it's the technically tax term correct, but I call it the regressive tax because it goes once you cross the threshold, your tax starts at $1. So the joke I'll make for that client is that 4 million in first dollar costs you about $260,000. Um, so
Wow.
yeah, yeah, some teeth. Yeah, it's not a good fun tax, and there's no spousal, automatic, like in the federal, there's none of that. Um, so it can get real nasty.
Yeah. There's something similar in New York. It's called the cliff. And
Okay.
our limit's a little bit higher, it's closer to 7 million. But if you do the math and you're over the limit, then you're taxed on the entire thing, not just the excess.
Yeah, yeah, it's a rude awakening for people. Yeah, especially when they have businesses or things that aren't necessarily liquid, and now the spouse or the kids are trying to pay the tax bill and keep that thing going. It's a tough one. It can be really devastating.
Yeah, this conversation is doing a really great job of just illustrating, like already getting into the nuances of estate planning.
Yeah,
Um, so how long have you been practicing?
I've been practicing since 2013. Yeah, I graduated law school in 2013, and I was lucky enough to get hired by a law firm I clerked for that they're kind of transitioning from pure like elder law, that type of asset protection planning to more traditional estate planning.
I think we graduated the same year. I also graduated 2013, University of
Okay.
Minnesota.
Yeah, yeah. I think I remember that about you when we first signed up for the 2Ls. I would do my undergrad at Minnesota. I
Oh,
did my
you
law
did?
school at NIU. Yeah, yeah. So I'm a gopher, Ski-U-Mah, all that. Yep.
Oh, that's so funny.
Yeah.
Yeah, I never really identified as a gopher because I feel like when you're there for grad school, it's not quite the
Yeah.
same. I
Yep.
went to Iowa State for undergrad, so I'm a cyclone.
That's all right. We'll never go to Iowa City mutually together. So
Yeah.
that's perfectly fine.
Yes, I love hate Iowa City just because of that Iowa State controversy.
Yep. Yep,
Yeah,
exactly.
not a controversy, but in any event, yeah. So coming into the program, what did you struggle with, and tell us a little bit about something that you learned from 2HLL that was helpful.
Yeah, so really, before 2022 is when I launched my own law firm, and that's why I know that's when I joined with you because I'd done seminaring since 2013, as an associate attorney, kind of the Robin to the Batman, and on my own a little bit too. But after COVID, I just wasn't able to close anymore on the seminars. We all did the web stuff, and then you got back to live things, and I tried harder sells, I tried softer sells, I tried all that. And it just, and as you know, the margin on these things is thin. The difference between having two or four people, raise their hand and zero or two people, that's where the whole game is, right? As far as the business is concerned. So what I really want to do is, get an outside approach, because obviously what I was doing that had working wasn't working anymore. So I needed a kind of a refresh and a new approach to the whole construction and marketing and delivery of that message.
And so, what are some of the things that we taught that were helpful? The
Well, one
piece of
thing
my planning session, I feel like, is a big one.
yeah, so the biggest shift in my presentations, if you were to time travel and look at one before the program and after, is on the pricing. I was trained by an attorney that was very much that we don't talk about pricing at the seminar. Uh, Model. And I didn't necessarily never really bought in or understood why, because I'm kind of a straight line A to B thinker. Like if somebody asks a question, I answer it. That's why I wouldn't be a good litigator. So I just answer the question I'm asked. So so I really appreciate it, and people were receptive to that and really responsive. And I think it saves time. People that can self-eliminate, you don't have to bother taking a meeting with them. It does a really good job. Um, just getting people across. And if you're confident in your pricing, if you're confident in yourself and the value you're providing, the time you're putting in, there's no problem, talking about pricing in a more straightforward way.
Yeah, yeah, and then my thing with the pricing is always, I'm very open and transparent about pricing after you've had about 45 minutes of education, right?
Yes. Yep.
So we don't, like I'll tell you everything you need to know, but it's not going to be on a 5-minute phone call. It's going to be, we want to make sure that you really understand. It's not for me, it's for you. I've done this 1,000 times now, and I know that most people who come into my office, they just don't understand all the nuances, which is understandable. It's very confusing. So just give me 45 minutes. And even if you don't hire me, I know you're going to leave in a much better position to make the right choices. If that's your approach, and then you feel comfortable revealing your fees in a workshop with a lot of people there, that approach is going to work. Plenty of people will hire you from that.
Yeah, I agree. And it's a tough thing to do, because if you give a range, right? Because you're not, like, oh, I don't really know you and your situation, so it could range. People always hear the lower number, and then when you get to the actual thing and you give them a penny higher, they're like, well, what's that for? So it's a tricky item. So I really appreciated, those sessions, going through, you know, talking about the nuance that's there because it's a lot of psychology, a lot of well, professional responsibility items, all the things that go into openly discussing pricing in a way that people appreciate and resonate with them.
Yeah, yeah, just conveying the value and all of
Hmm.
that. So, are you starting to have people come in and ask, can't I just do this on LegalZoom or even today AI? Are you getting those
Yeah,
questions?
I've definitely encountered that for years now, and AI is a new thing. I think some of that self-selects out, by the time it gets to my desk. But yeah, and I talk honestly. I'm like, listen, um, you can get something from them, from AI, from LegalZoom, but a lot of that stuff contains what I call structural ifs. That's the problem with them. If everything goes right, there's plenty of people who will escape, and just do fine, and their friends will talk about it, and then they think it's all right. But if that pillar crumbles, then the whole thing comes down. And I don't like structural ifs. I like to have sure things as much as we can, and the few things we can control in life. So.
Well, one of the best examples I can give that kind of goes along with estate planning, a friend of mine who's an attorney who does a lot of business law, a lot of
Hmm.
contracts for small business owners and whatnot. He had a woman come in, one of his clients came into him and said, I've got an unpaid intern here in New York City for
Mm.
the summer. I drafted my own independent contractor unpaid intern contract on ChatGPT. And of course,
Ah.
chat GPT is going to generate something that looks really, really professional and this is everything. And she was so proud to hand it over. And Andrew was the name of the lawyer that who was telling me this story. And he said the first thing he said was, it's illegal to have an unpaid intern in New York.
Oh,
Like you have just drafted a contract for an employment arrangement that actually isn't even legally allowed. So it doesn't matter that you've got this beautiful contract, that you think is really, really great that you didn't have to pay a lawyer for because you didn't know that you're not even allowed to have an unpaid intern in New York. And that's the
right.
kind of thing that the general public, they're not going to connect the dots there.
Yeah, that's a really good example. And on the estate planning side, even if it got everything correct on a trust, for example, then there's the whole funding piece, and I always tell people you can have Shakespeare write your trust, and if you don't fund it, you just got an expensive ream of paper is really all you have. So, Chat GPT is not going to fund it for you, and LegalZoom's certainly not, or any of those online, vendors. You're gonna have to dig and do that your own, and that just doesn't happen. Life happens and gets in the way, and they ask if it's a grantor trust or you're authorized to do margin trading or all these random questions. And you're like, I don't know, I'll come back to it. You never do. So it never gets done.
Yeah, yeah, they're not going to help fund it. They're not going to make sure it's executed properly.
Yeah.
Another landmine. If you don't sign it with the proper legal formalities, the court's going to throw it out.
Yep.
So I was just doing another call with Nicole who's in our program, and we were just saying, AI is really, really good for certain things.
Yeah.
Coming up
I
with
always say it gets you off
marketing.
the blank page.
Yeah,
You know,
that's a good way
you
of
know,
putting it.
yeah, it
Yeah.
gets you off the blank page. And that's an important step. But all the way to the finish line, really with anything, frankly, um, I don't know if it's the right fit for me at least.
Yeah. Yeah, well, what we're teaching lawyers is, don't stick your head in the sand. You need to be using it
Yeah.
in ways that will improve your efficiencies. But again, we're only improving the efficiencies behind the scenes because when we do sit down in front of you for your consult or for your design, when we're counseling you, we want to have all of the energy and everything we need to do that really, really well. So we'll rely on AI to do certain things behind the scenes, but never discount the importance of just speaking to us human to human.
Right, right. That's and an example that just popped in my head with that I use is not on a trust, but on my property power of attorney in Illinois. Every state has their standard list, of powers that are covered, but in Illinois, you can add to those powers. And one of the things that's missed on the standard powers is the ability to update beneficiaries on retirement accounts. The standard powers cover retirement account transactions, but most back offices I know don't treat a beneficiary update as a transaction. It's like account management. So unless there's a specific call out for authorizing beneficiary updates, somebody that's incapacitated in a hospital and has their son call into their financial advisor can be SOL. So that's something that's never going to be caught by any of those things we're talking about. It's going to take somebody who knows what they're doing to point that out, to put that in there. It's two sentences. It's not a complex, but it's an example of what a structural if. If everything goes all right, you could be fine, but if not, you could be going through probate even though you have a trust, right?
Yeah, yeah, and then ultimately it's going to end up costing you a lot more probably in the long run, not
Yeah.
to mention kind of the family turmoil. So
Yeah, yeah.
this is we get that this is a problem and that the public is sort of confused and whatnot. But your process helps educate. Is that right? So people
Yeah.
know. So tell us about your process when someone comes to your firm.
Yeah. So we start with typical intake survey we send out and they can schedule. I call it a legacy mapping session. That's another area where I learned to get more creative, kind of out of my comfort zone from the program. So I just landed on the, my law firm's legacy and life law firm. So we did legacy mapping session is what we call our first meeting. And I was actually a teacher before I went to law school. That was my big shift professionally. So, taking where you are from one point, getting to where you want to be, mapping between kind of fits my natural settings there. So that's where we talk with people about, hey, what are your concerns? What are you trying to do? And I always talk to them about estate planning documents. They're like tools to fit a job, right? So we got to know the job, and then we can fit you with the right tool. And then from there, we get them a flat fee, quote, all in. They know what the cost would be. They can go forward. They cannot, whatever they like. If they go forward, we have a simple design process. We use technology for kind of intelligently designed surveys to do the data collection. And they're usually signing their documents in 2.5, 3 weeks, depending on all the calendars. And we're done. Onto the funding. And
Yeah.
usually that's just an email or two with an advisor or somebody, and we're good to go.
Very, very easy process. It doesn't have to take a long time. That's the nice thing about it. Once you get started with a law firm like Brandon's, where there's, a process in place and it's designed to protect everyone's time and to really make sure that your estate plan is doing exactly what you want it to do. But the peace of mind of having everything signed in 4 weeks, I bet your clients really like that.
Yeah, yeah. I've kind of learned through, what, 12 years or whatever, um, that like puffing up the process is actually a bit of a red flag for me. You know, it's it's important, but it doesn't mean, you gotta shift the world around. There's things you can do. You can have a process. You can get it done high quality pretty quickly if you know what you're doing. So yeah.
And so you're licensed in Illinois and Texas. Are you
Yep.
serving people in both states?
Yes. Yep.
So how does the Texas work? Fully virtual, I
Yeah.
would imagine.
Yeah, it's virtual, I have two young kids, so I like to work around busy schedules, even for people here in Illinois. So I love in-person meetings, but if the busy business owner and me with my family, we can use technology to our advantage. In Texas, we certainly need to do virtual appointments. Um, the biggest hurdle is a practical one when it comes to signing and witness and notarizing things. So we have a company that will go to people's homes, or if people have friends or somebody at work that can notarize things, that's fine too. But we just then, I really am conscious about building, having clients leave confident in their documents. And virtually, that could be difficult. I get very self-conscious about it. So we really have a beefed up process where they've seen a summary of their documents and their choices. I do a whole video review of their documents for them. I send them a complete PDF of every page of every little thing that goes in the binder, so they can see it all. And then we send a smaller PDF with all the signature pages. So just to try and all those little things that come up when you're not in the room, just
Yeah.
build stress and things can escalate really quickly. So I try and you can't never anticipate everything, and we're certainly not perfect, but we try to do our best to resolve the easy stuff.
Yeah. And at the end of the day, as long as the documents are executed with the right legal formalities and they send them back, I presume, and then you double check everything. And um, so it works. We're not necessarily stuck, in the you have to meet in person anymore, which I think is really, really nice. I think a lot of clients appreciate that. Your estate plan is just as valid if you meet with Brandon, over Zoom. All of my client meetings are via Zoom as well, except the
Yeah.
signing, and I serve clients in both New York and Minnesota. So
Yeah.
this is just kind of the way that it is now, and it's nice. It allows you to really reach a broader community.
Yeah. Yeah. And as long as you know what you're doing and you can, still have to build trust and everything, there's hurdles that come with it, but it's nothing that can't be overcome.
So anything else you want to share with us? What new things do you have coming up, Brandon?
Well, one thing, from the course in the seminaring, I'm really shifting part of that into a school community called Legacy Coach that we just launched, where people can come and have access to all the little educational materials broken down a bit. They're not all 45-minute, hour-long things. They're more, by the subtopic. But there's interactive community with discussion board, and we have monthly calls. We have a little book club. We do a bunch of little stuff trying to build a community out there and help people just basically get good information. 'Cause that's one thing with everything that's out there. There's so much bad information. So I wanted to kind of be a little oasis of good info when it comes to planning, practically, legally, all that kind of stuff for themselves and the people they care about most.
So this will be a community for your clients, for anyone who wants to join.
Anyone in the public that wants to join. Yep, yep. We're out there. I did my best to create all these modules. There's like 200 modules I created. Um, I tried my best to, qualify like, hey, this is how it is in Illinois and Texas, very much local, do that so people flag it and know, hey, maybe I need to talk to an attorney or, whoever here to make sure this is the right information. But yeah, I made it so it can kind of serve anybody that wants to come in and have a look.
Is that ready yet, or is it going to be ready soon?
Yeah, yeah. So depending on the air date of this, so I've earmarked Labor Day as kind of the launch date. I'm doing some beta testing with people I know will give me honest feedback, and we're just about to launch here publicly, sitting here at the end of July. So
Okay, good. We'll have to make sure that our community and the public knows about that. That's going to be a great resource for the public. And I think what's important about this, Brandon, is that I feel like more than ever, even more than like even 12 months ago, your online digital trust footprint is so important because the community and the public, they're looking for people to trust. The information is out there a million different places. So then the next
Right.
question is, well, who do I trust? Right. And
Exactly.
you're someone that people can trust. And so this is a really great idea.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate it. Thank you.
Okay. Well, this has been amazing. Brandon, what's your contact information that you want to share?
Oh yeah. So law firm's called Legacy and Life Law Firm. We're on you can find me by Brandon Ayers attorney on like TikTok and Instagram and those things. And then the school community is called Legacy Coach. And then there's always our website, legacyandlifelawfirm.com.
Amazing. Thank you, Brandon, for
All
sharing
right.
all of your expertise with us. And those of you that are in Illinois and Texas can potentially work with Brandon.
Yeah.
Um, and enjoy the rest of your week.
Thanks. You too, Laura. Happy to have a chat. Thanks.
Thank you.
All right.